Salutations, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another one of the mini casts that we are going to be getting to do. I've titled this one Demons, Aliens, and Robots because we're going to be going over that. I'm actually trying to secure my place in the loony bin when I'm covering this information, and the reason why I wanted to do this very, very special mini cast is because an article popped up the other day, which I feel like encapsulates a lot of the different things that we try to cover here on the show. If you guys paid attention to that episode with Third Eye Opener and even Orgon and other people on the show, we've kind of given a face to this artificial energy, to whatever this adversarial force is. Right, we're going to be going over that in this edition. You know, what is a demon? What is an alien? And why are we so terrified of robots? So with that being said, let's jump right into it. As I said before, there was an article that popped up that caught my attention. Something that kind of stood out to me. It was an article from Mysterious Universe, and I have a few other articles picked out, but I'm not going to be trying to jump all over the place. I'm going to try to get across what I would consider very crazy concepts in a short, concise amount of time. An article popped up from Mysterious Universe, put up October 20th, that says aliens may actually be billion-year-old robots. Now, before I get into this, I think that's yes is what I'm trying to say. Without all the fancy words, without all the extra talking, yes, I agree. You think of Brainiac, you think of the Borg, you think of some artificially intelligent force that's going through, and this is why you hear me say, are they trying to digitize destiny? Is this what we see taking place in front of us? Are these robots, are they considered alien? Yeah, because they're not what we would consider biological. They're not real in our world, so to speak. Let's get into this, and then we'll kind of move on with this, because there's so much going on with just this one statement right there. This could ruin a lot of good science fiction movies and create interesting plots for the next generation of them, not to mention influencing how humans deal with space aliens when they first encounter each other, assuming they haven't already. A timely article by the Daily Galaxy reviews the study, quote, Alien Minds by Susan Schneider, where the professor and the author discuss her theory that our first meeting with an extraterrestrial will be a billion-year-old robot. Wait, what? Quote, I do not believe that the most advanced alien civilizations will be biological. The most sophisticated civilizations will be post-biological forms of artificial intelligence or alien superintelligence. So I'm going to stop right there, because I definitely agree with you, Susan. I feel like, yes, we are seeing aliens. Yes, we are seeing these entities. They're not biological like we would want them to be, like we think. This is why whenever I talk to people about what would be considered alien, I ask the question, Are we talking about flesh and blood aliens? Are we talking about interdimensionals, extra-dimensionals, intraterrestrials, things like that? We're not really looking, or I don't feel like we're asking some of the right questions when looking at this alien abduction phenomena. I put up the post and the question I asked to you guys, and we got over 400 responses. What woke you up to the New World Order? I told you guys that I came into it through this angle, through studying the alien abduction phenomena. This is something that is frightening to me. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of scary, kind of wild. But why am I talking about aliens and robots? Well, don't worry, I'll talk about demons as well. Let me break this down. With NASA alone, and Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, Werner von Braun, the faces basically behind creating what we consider NASA today, they have practiced occultism. Jack Parsons conducted the Babylon working ritual, right, on the ground site for NASA. There's a lot of different things that comes with that as well. But Aleister Crowley has also talked about coming into contact with entities or demons, so to speak, that he called Lamb. And whenever you look at the picture of what Lamb looks like, it looks like a typical gray, right? But why are we talking about black magic and demons and aliens? Because they're one and the same. Whenever they call forth these entities, whenever they call forth these powers, they're calling forth a certain energy. They're trying to resonate or assume power. so to speak. So let me, because I'm kind of ranting, what is a demon? This is what I call extra dimensional. This is why whenever we talk about it on the show, we call them extra dimensional entities, multidimensional entities, lower vibrational entities, and things of this nature, because they have to be called in. They have to be summoned. But what is one generation's demon is another generation's alien. You see, this is why whenever we talk about aliens out in space, well, we're not talking about outer space. We're talking about the interdimensional spaces. We're talking about where they come from, not some far away, distant reality or some distant planet, 8 billion light years away, like Star Trek would have you believe. They're basically right here. These entities are right here. This is why I focus on the paranormal so much, because we're asking the questions of where these things come from. What are they doing? What is their intention? Just the other day, and this is, again, I got to fly off the handle on crazy. This is, again, why Pedogate and why this Harvey Weinstein nonsense is so important. We're looking at child sex trafficking. We're looking at satanic ritual abuse. We are looking at all things wicked. We've talked about on the show imbuing entities onto objects, artifacts, Thurgeria. You see, we've talked about summoning entities. What I am trying to say by listing all these different things is there is something right here in the ether that has its own form of consciousness. Even the Thunder Energies Corporation put out a document. I think it's in 2015. It was the Thunder Energies Corporation, and they were talking about ITEs, invisible terrestrial entities. There were two different types. One that was over military installations, and one that was over common ground, like marketplaces, things like that, places where you would see humans. But this is because they were able to switch the lens in which they were able to perceive light, spectrums of light, what is happening around them right here. The American Journal of Modern Physics, apparent detection via new telescopes with concave lenses of otherwise invisible terrestrial entities, ITEs, and they put this up in 2016. By using telescopes with concave lenses known as Santilli telescopes, trademark and patent pending by the U.S. publicly traded company Thunder Energies Corporation, we review preceding evidence for apparent existence of antimatter galaxies, antimatter asteroids, and antimatter cosmic rays. Independently from these astrophysical detections, we present for the first time evidence for the apparent existence of entities in our terrestrial environment that are solely visible via telescopes with concave lenses, while being invisible to our eyes in conventional Galileo telescopes with convex lenses, which entities leave dark images in the background of digital cameras, to the Santilli telescopes. These entities are here called invisible terrestrial entities of the first kind, or dark ITEs. So right there, okay, in the American Journal of Modern Physics, a corporation in Florida, the Thunder Energies Corporation, has put out a paper that was published on June 8th of 2016, but accepted December 25th on Christmas of 2015. I'm sure there's some numerology there. But what I'm trying to say is they have proof that we are being visited by other entities. By what I would consider these demons. They're considered demons because they weren't understood at the time. We call them aliens today. Like I said, with Lamb, Aleister Crowley's entity that he contacted. One man's demon is another man's alien. One man's fairy is another man's angel. There's a lot of different things we have to look at when we break into the mythology, whenever we talk about these other entities. And this is why I harp on this stuff so much, because it's very important. So how do demons and aliens tie in together? They're masquerading. They're the same. They're literally just changing their appearance. That's how it works. So yes, and this is where it gets even more crazy, because we have to understand that as these demons are real, as these entities are very real, we also have to realize that when they come here into our world, into our three-dimensional physical plane that we act in, that we interact in, they have to have a body or something to interact with. This is why when you see poltergeist activity or any paranormal activity, you see them trying to interact with the world. This is why darker entities, and this is because there's so many different classifications. You have human spirits, you have non-human entities, and then you have these extra-dimensional entities that can bleed through, these antimatter entities, so to speak. There's a lot of different classifications with this. I might need to come up with a chart or something. But my point is this: these people who are messing with these entities, when they call them forth in this dimension, they are trying to have they're trying to attain physicality. This is why blood, sweat, fear, all of these lower vibrational, lower vibratory emotions, essences, this energy is important to them because it's the very base of what we can exude. And if they can tap into the very base of what we exude, then they have hold here. That's what they want. They want to be real or whole again. So how does this tie into robots? Well, I'm glad you asked. And like I said, I'm trying to secure my place in the loony bin. I'm glad you asked as to how do demons and aliens fit into robots? Well, in a few other shows where I've talked about this, and in a few other videos I've talked about it as well, the concept of them literally creating through synthetic biology houses, so to speak, homes, bodies, for these extra-dimensional entities to come into, using things like synthetic biology, gametogenesis, genetic modification, ectogenesis, using all of these different things to receive that energy. When we talk about, again, and this is just more of the craziness that I understand, when you talk about the Eisenhower-Gray Treaty, I think it was in 1954, don't quote me, but the Eisenhower-Gray Treaty. It basically allowed for the government. No, I was right. It was 1954 with the Eisenhower meeting with the Greys. Yes, because this is very important. When we're talking about the Eisenhower-Gray Treaty, we're talking about how in 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower went missing and went to Edwards Air Force Base, where he apparently made the treaty with the Greys that they would trade technology in place of human souls. They were trafficking in men's souls still, even back then. It's not that long ago. But obviously the Greys got too greedy. They started taking more than their share of humans, more than they were allowed. And so some stuff went wrong. We have advanced technology, and this is what we kind of see it rolling out today. They're also trying to sell us free energy with things like Tesla and Agenda 2030 and all this other crazy stuff that comes with it. But to focus on the trade between humans and extraterrestrials and the technology that they were doing, the aliens were trying to conduct experiments on us. The aliens, as we perceive them, these billion-year-old robots that have manifested physically through things like the Greys, these aliens took human people and conducted these hybridization programs. How can they how is it that they're able to how can they merge humanity, but at the same time retain some of the alien characteristics that they've developed over the years? And you got to think, what we consider technology is very, very crude, very rudimentary. We have a lot of different things at our disposal. What is Graham Hancock talks about this as well, about plants actually being technology. I'm trying to give you guys a very, very broad picture of what this reality that we live in looks like. It's not as simple as they would have you think. So when we're talking about what is real, what is biological, what is synthetic, what is artificial, what is not real, the line really does become blurred. What I'm trying to say is these entities that have been billions of years old have been able to somehow come up with a skin. They have been able to make themselves flesh and blood, but they weren't able to retain the soul. They weren't able to retain the essence. Yes, they were able to create physicality. Yes, they were able to make a body, but that body doesn't have a connection to the larger spirit, to the larger existence that is God. We have a conscience. We actually rebirth ourselves through reincarnation and through procreation. That is something that the aliens and the extraterrestrials do not have. They are simply code executing their actions. They're extensions of a larger will, and as are we, but ours is of a divine source. These people, or this entity, these aliens, their source comes from something else. And this is why when you're looking at things like CERN, the Mandela effect, the technocracy, ELF, VLF, Gwyn towers, cell phone towers, and things of this nature, we're seeing how they're trying to make us like them. This is the singularity. This is the transhuman agenda. This is why I find it so frightening, because they're trying to overwrite what it means to be human. Not only are they trying to come at it with hybrid humans, literally hybridizing humanity, but they're trying to implant us to make us that much more suggestible. I could talk for days about how people like Dr. David Jacobs, Bud Hopkins, and these awesome researchers that were out there doing doing some of the psychological work. I think it escapes me right now. But I forget what it's called. Regression therapy, I think it is. Don't quote me. But what it is they were basically putting these people under and then finding out what happened to them, what their experiences were with these aliens, with these entities. And every time you would hear it, that's what I'm saying. It's the reports of these people, of these entities, that give us an insight as to who they are. A lot of the abductees talked about the Greys having mechanical mannerisms about them, robotic features, void of life. They said when they felt like they were looking in their eyes, they felt like they were being downloaded, like their soul was being downloaded. It was flesh and blood, three-dimensional. They could feel it, but there was nothing there. That's what I'm talking about, a synthetic, biological, technological construct of some kind. It's not real. Billions of years old robots that can be made into flesh so that they can interact here. They can put all of their receptors, all of the things that the transmitters, the receivers, everything they need within inside of this construct, this artificial construct called a robot, or a husk, a gray, something, and then they have their body right there. They can then tune in, literally, from whatever frequency, whatever low vibrational energy they're from. They can literally tune in into this body. What happens when you go to sleep? You wake back up. You're no longer in your body, but your mind is still active, right? Right? Your body is right here on the earth, hanging out, vulnerable. What happens if we destroy one of these Greys' bodies? Does that mean that signal goes somewhere else? That energy goes somewhere else? Let's finish up this article, and then I'll close out this episode for you guys. It says Susan Schneider is an associate professor in the Department of Philosophy Cognitive Science program at the University of Connecticut. Alien Minds has been presented at NASA and the 2016 Idea Festival in Kentucky and was published in The Impact of Discovering Life Beyond Earth. It is her response to the question, quote, how would intelligent aliens think? Would they have conscious experiences? Would it feel a certain way to be an alien? I actually think that the first discovery on other planets will involve microbial life. I am concentrating on intelligent life in my work on this topic, though. I only claim that the most advanced civilizations will likely be post-biological. Schneider's theory is based on three components of observations. In her short window observation, she presents the idea that a civilization or a species that can conquer long-distance space travel is already very close to moving from biological to artificially intelligent beings. An example of this short window is the relatively brief 120 years it took humans to go from the first radio signals to cell phones. And this is why, since we're here, this is why when we're looking again at things like nanochips, smart dust, microchipping the human population. They can, and if you guys have paid attention, because we have new listeners, new subscribers, and new people that follow every day. For the people that are listening now, and I know I sound crazy, go back and listen to where I talk about this type of stuff. Your body has a natural frequency. Your body has a natural tune to it, a way of working. Whenever they put these microchips into us, they are disconnecting us from source. They are disconnecting us from God. They are removing salvation. They are changing our natural biological rhythm. They are trying to make us into them. This is the transhuman agenda. This is why when we talk again, because this is all stuff that's popping out in the news. This is everything that's popping out in the news. Olympic athletes could soon face being microchipped like dogs to compete. They say it's just because they want to check the body and make sure that they're not doing drugs and cheating, things of this nature, trying to prevent the use of performance-enhancing drugs. But there's deeper things at play here. Much deeper things at play. It's more than just what we would consider robots. Clunky. I'm sure we've talked about this. I know we have hybrid and humanoids around us. Robotic humanoids. Organic robotoids, as Dr. Peter Beater calls them. And then you get into the question of, well, what is a clone? Is it a robot? Is it a robot type of clone? Is it a biological clone? What type of clone is it? Right there, man and machine will be melded into one within 20 years. This is why they're trying to push it so hard. This is why they are pushing the transhuman agenda in the way that they are. Because it's not only physical, merging with these machines, merging with technology, but it's also spiritual. This artificial energy, as we've tried to highlight throughout the entirety of the shows, is very real. This is the AI takeover. This is what this all looks like when they want to try to get us in a state of pseudo-reality. And there's so much more that comes with this, with this agenda that they have. It's much more in depth than we could ever possibly realize. We're in this mix. We're in the middle of their plans. So that's why whenever we talk about aliens actually being billion-year-old robots, it's not too far-fetched to think. We have about 120 good years on this planet. Robots that are timeless, that don't necessarily feel, and can exist outside of the normal human timeline. They could be watching. They could be interacting. They could be waiting for us to discover the types of technology that they need to bleed into this earth, to bleed into this realm. And this is a very, very scary thing. There's a lot of spiritual, biological, and physical components to what we're talking about. And I know it sounds crazy. Like I said before at the start of the broadcast, I'm trying to secure my place in the loony bin. However, that's all I really have for you guys. If anything, I may do a subsequent minicast where we actually break this down a little bit more thoroughly. But I wanted to get this out there while we had the chance. This is a very, very important article. Another Rosetta Stone, a window into what is going on, where they give us little tells. There's a lot of different factors involved in all of these different agendas, but we have to be aware, hyper vigilant, and stay vigilant when looking at all of these things. But I'm ranting, and I want to close out. I want to say thank you guys for tuning into this edition. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. And as always, guys, stay vigilant. Expose lies and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction.